young people that are young in their careers. They're wanting to break free of the 9-to-5. They want to be their own boss. They want to start the entrepreneurial journey, but they don't know where to start. They don't know what kind of business to get into. What advice would you offer to them?
This is a two-parter for me because initially I would say go into something you absolutely love and you're passionate about, because you're going to continue to get yourself out of bed to go do that because you love that. Now that I'm 51, my answer's changed. Yes, you definitely still want to do something that at least you've got some sort of passion for, but really kind of look at something where the vertical in which you're going to go into has the ability to make money from a cash flow perspective. You want to be able to get into something that people want, that people need, but then you can quickly kind of get to a cash flow perspective and understand that's probably not going to be your first business. It's not going to be your forever business.
Right.
Just get in the game and then go from there.
Welcome back to Struggle and Strive. My name is Estil. I'm your host. Today we've got a great episode. We've got a special guest, Mr. RJ Orr. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's got long-term recovery. He's been a close personal friend and mentor to me for many years. You're going to love today's show. First of all, tell me about RJ before sobriety, before entrepreneurship, before executive career, family, kids, all that stuff. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. Small town called Terrace Park, which is a suburb of Cincinnati. Went to a very small high school called Marymount High School. Graduated with 70 people in my class. So really it was kind of smallish town living.
Yeah.
Type of town where nobody locked their doors, and grew up with the same kids since kindergarten, and you just walked in and out of your friends' houses, and it was that type of living.
There's a lot of character to living that way. I know that I've met a lot of people from small towns that have, they wanted to go to the big city. They wanted to have more exposure to more. But as a parent, now we're looking for more of a small town life. We live outside of the city now, and we're looking for where can we emulate that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm very grateful for growing up that way. There's guys that I literally went to kindergarten with that I still see on a yearly basis. Yeah.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah. Trip coming up here in October, same thing. We do a trip every year, and these are guys I went to kindergarten with.
Yeah, that's an incredible sense of community and closeness that you lose in bigger cities.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. All right, so you grew up there. How old were you when you moved, and where'd you move to?
Yeah, so graduated high school in 1992. Cincinnati is cold-ish, cold enough for me, and I despise the cold. And I'm like, how far away can I go for college that's warm? I had two older stepbrothers who went to Arizona State University, came out here on various trips throughout my high school years. I'm like, this place is amazing, right? So I applied to two colleges, and it was U of A and ASU. And my dad's like, you think you want to apply to some more? I'm like, nope, I know where I'm going, and got into ASU, and it was done. So I moved out here in 1992.
What'd you study?
I studied business management. I kind of grew up in an entrepreneurial family, right? So on my father's side, they had a shoe store for a long time called Potter Shoes, just a small mom and pop type shoe store that got built up to multi-locations around Cincinnati.
That's rad.
Very popular shoe store. And then my stepfather, Phil Goldman, is a restaurateur, and he had, at one point, him and his group owned a quarter of the Arby's. They had sold out their position. He had started various restaurants in Cincinnati, and then ultimately moved out here. His oldest stepbrother Todd and his oldest son Todd and youngest son Mark went to Arizona State. They came out here. I don't know if you remember, but there was a fast food pizza restaurant called Pizza Now. They had one up at Paradise Valley Mall, and then one in Tempe near school. It was ahead of its time. So think like Mod Pizza, Fired Pie, all that type of stuff. This is early 90s, and they did this. So it was ahead of its time, didn't really work out. And then since have started various restaurants, but now the Zips empire, Zips Sports Grill is all there. So I always knew that I wanted to be in business, and not only be in business, but be a part of my own business. So that's what I went to school for.
What a fascinating way to grow up with two male figures in your life that are giving you so much entrepreneurial information, even just in day-to-day life and conversation.
Yeah, and it was more so then versus now. We talk about it a lot more, right? The dream of entrepreneurship. I mean, it's all over everywhere. Gary Vaynerchuk is big into it, all of that stuff, kind of being in control of your own destiny. It was more just by watching than anything else. I mean, that you saw that, my grandfather I remember going into his office at Potter Shoes and sitting in his big chair in his big office, and watching people come in and out. And my dad's office was right next door. And then my uncle's office was right next door to that. And we would go down and they used to do mailers, and they would pay me and my brother 10 cents to pack mailers. And we would be up in the attic warehouse running around and doing that. And just being around it, you just kind of get that sense of this is pretty cool. And it's the idea of being in a corporate type of environment, going and putting together my resume and interviewing 5,000 times and working for somebody else never was appealing. Having my own thing always was.
Well, I can only imagine, guys. I didn't grow up in a household like you're describing, but it sounds fascinating. Yeah, I mean, if you grow up around entrepreneurship in your household, yeah, I mean, very organically, you would put two and two together. The way you make money is you start a business.
Right.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
You get old enough, you find some way to offer value, and you start a little company.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. All right. So you move out here, you go to college. You got sober pretty young?
I did. I got sober at 23.
23.
Yeah. So, I mean,
that's really young.
It is real young. I mean, so really kind of had my first drink at 13, just around with the buddies. And, it just kind of went like that. But I grew up in this small town. So for the most part, we were relatively protected, right? We were in this small town. You could walk everywhere. I played football. I ran track. I was in a small high school. You were kings of that high school, right? You think about, the movie Dazed and Confused, and they're like, what do you got to worry about? You're the kings of this high school, Pink. I mean, it was kind of a lot like that. So we were protected. And, there were probably early signs of, I probably have a problem with alcohol, that I vividly remember having little to no control over the amount that I was going to drink once I had that first drink from the very first drink, right? But I was in a bubble, right? And then when I came here, there was no rules, right? I'm in Arizona State University, one of the biggest colleges in the United States. At the time, was the #1 party school in the country, which was part of the allure. And I completely went off the rails, so you went from kind of being protected by not only your parents, but teachers and coaches, et cetera. They kind of kept you, between the ditches, I like to say. And you didn't really go off the road too much. But when I came here, I didn't have that. Yeah. And so it's ironic. You kind of look back and you're like, what are possibly one of the things you'd do differently? Would I have gone to a smaller school and kept that on? But I think I would just eventually just delayed the inevitable. So really me getting sober at 23 years old was a result of me coming here, not having the guardrails on anymore, and really accelerating, which would have happened anyway. So, yeah. Which I'm grateful for, because, we've been around the rooms long enough. You've seen guys that come in at 30, 35, 40, 45, and they've blown up families and businesses and all of these other things. There was a lot of wreckage in the years between 18 and 23 that I caused. A lot really towards the ones that loved me, my mom, my dad, my siblings, friends, etc. But I gratefully didn't blow up this huge thing that I had built over 15 years. So I got to that point where literally it was the cliche of I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I had no other option but to pick up the phone and ask for help.
And how did that look? Who did you talk to? Who'd you call?
So it was ironic that I had gone back to Cincinnati. At the time, I was in college working for my parents' restaurant, had gone back to Cincinnati to visit friends, and just went on a straight bender. It was bad, and I blew up a lot of stuff over this 1 week that I was there, and I kind of just knew it. I was at that point where I'm like, I don't want to live anymore, but I don't want to kill myself either. So I'd gotten home and I'd asked my mom, I need help, and so got there to my mom's house, slept it off on her couch in her laundry room, woke up the next day, attempted to try to get into Banner Health. My insurance at the time didn't jive. And I called Alcoholics Anonymous. I called the hotline. And this was like at 10:30 in the morning.
What year is this?
This is 1997.
So this is pre-internet.
Yep, pre-internet.
So how did you find that phone number to
I
Alcoholics
looked it up
Anonymous?
in the phone book.
Like the yellow pages.
The yellow pages.
Whoa.
So my mom lived in North Scottsdale at the time, just off of Shea and 100th Street, and got a hold of somebody at the Alcoholics Anonymous hotline, and they're like, "There's a meeting down the street from you at noon," which was the North Scottsdale Fellowship Club.
Yeah, so it's still there. Yeah.
Still there, and they're like, "Why don't you go to that meeting?" And I walked in, and that was my first introduction to Alcoholics Anonymous.
Have you been sober since that day?
I've been sober since that day.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but don't you go back to that meeting?
I do.
Annually?
Yeah.
That's rad.
So that's one of the meetings I get my chip from, which is great.
And what's your date?
Date is May 23rd, 1997. Okay. Yeah. So 28 years now. Sometimes I got to do the math because I'm on a weird 97. Sometimes it's a hard math one, but yeah.
28. Wow. You wander into your first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. You have no idea what's going on. You muddle through. You stay sober. Tell me about the first year. Is there an event or two that stand out that really galvanized your
Absolutely.
place?
Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to meet my sponsor in my first meeting.
Rad.
Guy named Scott B. He was at that meeting. Ironically, it's not a meeting that he ever goes to. He was in the flooring business, was doing a job down the street, was at a meeting. I
know Scott.
Yeah, you know Scott. So I stood up as a newcomer, and he was just ferocious in his outreach.
Yeah.
And he came up to me after the meeting and said, "Do you got a sponsor?" I said, "Nope." He goes, "You do now." I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "You got any money?" And I reach in my pocket, I pull out like a couple crumpled dollar bills, and he snatches it from me and replaces it with a big book. He goes, "Here's a big book. Start reading from the word preface. Call me every day. Go to a meeting every day." And that was my introduction. The cool thing about having Scott as a sponsor, other than the fact that he was a fantastic sponsor, was he sponsored a ton of young people in Alcoholics Anonymous. So Jeff W., a good buddy of mine, other guys, Brandon, other guys like that were his sponsees. Jay was a sponsee of his too. And we all kind of hung out together, So, I mean, we would interact with Scott, but we hung out with each other.
Which is invaluable.
It's invaluable. We went to coffee, we played pool, we go to movies, we'd shoot the shit, just have fun, right? Just being young and 23 and going to different conventions and other things like that. So this was May of 97, and I'm pink clouding it. Like I'm rolling, everything's great. And I remember that the one thing that stands out to me my first year in sobriety was Halloween night. We're at Cafe Blue, which is in Old Town Scottsdale, having coffee. And it just hit me.
Halloween. Indian School in Scottsdale Road?
Indian School in Scottsdale
right where it is. Right, it's not there anymore. But
it's not.
Yeah.
Halloween was one of those holidays for me that I like to get. Like that was my New Year's Eve. You know what I'm saying? Because you can be whoever you want. You can do whatever you want. Everybody's out to have a good time. So that was and I was like bugs were crawling, because I'm like, I want to get loaded. And this was probably around 10:30 at night. And I'm like, I need a meeting. And there was, I forget the coffee house. It's down in Phoenix. There was one down there. And
Willow House?
Willow House.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm sure it's gone too.
Out back, they had a little barn type thing,
yeah.
and they had a meeting. And they did like an 11 o'clock or a midnight meeting. And I'm like, I got to go. And Jeff was there. Brandon was there. A bunch of guys were there. I'm like, I got to go. And I went, and it's going to make me cry. I went to that meeting, sat down, and 5 minutes later, I turned around and they were there. It was awesome.
Still in contact with those guys?
Yep.
Those guys all have long-term sobriety now.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was cool to see, just because you're like, these people really care about me. Like, they didn't need anything from me. They didn't want anything from me. There was nothing fake about it. It was real. And that was a real moment.
Having fellowship like that, not being alone, going through tough times. And that's a fascinating part of the fellowship side is that you don't have to go through this stuff alone.
Right. It's the one thing that's difficult to let other people know, and is difficult to watch when you're sponsoring a new person and they're not plugging in, and then they seem to not get it, and they seem to keep going in and out, even though they potentially are doing everything else that you're asking them to do. They haven't plugged into the fellowship. And the aspect of my relationship, our relationship to a higher power, I firmly believe is spoken to us through others in the fellowship, period. I say things to people that I sponsor, to you when you've called me in the past, et cetera, and gotten off the phone and said, I have no idea where that came from. I didn't say that. I didn't. I believe that the higher power speaks through us. I really do.
I believe the same thing.
Yeah.
The work I see God do is through other people.
Yeah. And that's the piece that I feel so grateful for getting sober in Phoenix, is because we have such a great fellowship here, and the meetings and everything that's here. It's got to be tough when you're isolated. You're in a small town. There's only a couple people that go. Resentments grow up fast. things that happen, and you're cut off from that fellowship for whatever reason.
Yeah.
In this town, we have it in abundance, which is amazing.
People come from all over the country to get sober here.
Yeah.
Because we have such a strong recovery community here. What people that aren't in recovery may have a misconception around recovery, meaning just not drinking.
Right.
What are some of the significant changes that have taken place in your life in the years you've been in recovery?
Well, I mean, just as a result of being sober, and the not drinking part, the not using mind-altering substances part, for me, I believe that was really just my solution at the time. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't that I was doing this because it was like I had other things going on. Like I had that discontent that we all feel for whatever reason. And my solution was drugs and alcohol.
Totally.
For me, mostly alcohol, and anything that I would probably use from a mind-altering substance point of view was all in support of drinking.
Yeah.
I can drink longer. Because I had a tendency to be a blackout drinker, et cetera. So that kind of stinks after a while. And so you find your way around that. But eventually your solution stops working. Mine stopped working really quickly as a result of getting sober at 23 years old. And so as a result of being sober, not drinking anymore, then there's that just absolute clarity. And then now I can actually live life. And, from that, I've met an amazing woman that is my wife still today. And we've been married for, 23 years almost. And, had 3 amazing kids and built a business and a great career and, a multitude of friends and family and all of the things that at the end of the day, I honestly think that's what everybody wants, and we've got all these other distractions and everything that goes around, and everybody just wants that sense of community and sense of belonging and sense of love. And you get that because I'm taking away the bullshit created by drugs and alcohol.
Are there any principles you've taken from the 12 steps and from your life in recovery that played a role in marriage, for example, or in fatherhood or in business?
Yeah. I mean, I would absolutely say that the principles of the program have helped structure a life for me that certainly isn't perfect. I definitely have not done marriage perfect or fatherhood perfect, but the great thing that it gives me the ability to do is quickly do a reset and not perpetually have these dark years, years upon years of messing up in my marriage or messing up in fatherhood or messing up in business or screwing up relationships. That, it kind of gives me that ability to reflect, talk with my community, my sponsor, my friends in the program, et cetera, and really come back, make amends where it needs to be made, and really kind of level set things, and so that I can then grow and go on to the next chapter in my life.
How did recovery lead you into your career path? Getting sober young, I mean,
right,
your early
exactly,
20s.
Yeah. So I mean, I was in college, and really
studying business,
really wanting to kind of start my own thing. And we had an assignment in college, and I forget exactly what it was, but I went to the professor and I kind of morphed him like, hey, listen, I want to change this and I want to write a paper on how to start a small business. Now you're talking 1997, 98, right? Starting you're not going onto the internet and it's not all mapped
out.
There's no
ChatGPT.
Like you got to go meet with a lawyer and start an LLC. So I really did this, and I started an apparel company, just like a fun kind of t-shirt company, had like little different fun slogans and stuff on it. But I actually did this as my assignment in college, and I started a business. And so that's how this all started as a result of being clean and sober. And I wouldn't have done this had I been in college and just still, being an idiot and partying all the time. So it kind of led me into that phase, and me wanting to do t-shirts. I needed somebody to screen print them, and I got through some fraternity brothers of mine. They had a screen printing business called Spectrum Sports, and I had worked with them in the past before I got sober, kind of selling t-shirts when the Super Bowl was here in like 94. I had sold t-shirts for them that they had gotten a little quasi NFL license to do some Super Bowl stuff. And I had worked with them. And so I went to them and said, hey, I've got this business, and kind of started it from there. And that's how that all began.
You have friends that are screen printers. You're getting t-shirts made. How does this lead to Blue Media?
Yeah. So at the time, what became my partner, Jared Smith, had started a company called the Golf Tournament Group. Actually, he started it with Matt. Matt was one of the original founders of the Golf Tournament Group, and another guy named Lance. And so they were friends with this guy, Travis, that was working at the screen printing business. He ran the production part.
The same one.
Yeah. Right? So I was around there, and then was working a little bit for those guys at Spectrum Sports, running my own thing. They were coming in and out because they had gone to high school with Travis, and became friends with them. And I play golf. I had played golf since I was 12 years old and loved golf. And Jared came to me one day, saw me grinding. Like I had my call sheet, because I was calling all these guys on behalf of Spectrum Sports, trying to pitch t-shirts, working on my business. And he saw this yellow legal pad with all these, my sales funnel at the time, but way before Salesforce, everything else. And he's like, hey, man, I see you grinding over there. He's like, I know you love golf. He's like, would you like to help us out? And so I started helping them out in my kind of spare time, and we really catered towards charities that were using the golf tournament as a fundraising vehicle. So we helped them put on their charity golf tournament. And they had this little 36-inch wide HP printer, and printed whole sponsorship signs, welcome to the course banners. We did add specialty stuff like golf balls and tees and stuff like that. And then eventually, my t-shirt business really wasn't doing all that great. I was getting frustrated slinging t-shirts at Spectrum Sports. And so I went over there. This was like April of 98. I went over to Golf Tournament Group full time. At that point, Matt actually kind of exited. He went and sold insurance, and I kind of took over the Matt role and kind of started working from there. Eventually, we started having so many non-golf clients as a result of the Golf Tournament Group that we had met through our different trials and travels with the Golf Tournament Group, that we were doing a lot of non-golf stuff. We're like, hey, it's kind of weird calling on people as the Golf Tournament Group. Let's start another company that does large format digital printing. And we called it Blue Media. And Jared, who was the president and the founder of Blue Media, when he was in high school, he was in a business class. They studied IBM, nicknamed Big Blue. And he's like, I've always wanted to call a company and use the word blue in it. So we originally had called it Blue Media Productions because the material, the stickers we print on and stuff is media in our world. And eventually we just shortened it to Blue Media as one word. But we just started that, and we were running both of them at the same time. And then probably around 2000, 2001, we just folded Golf Tournament Group into Blue Media, and off to the races we were.
If you're not familiar with Blue Media, give it a Google. It was recently acquired by Wasserman. I don't know if that's the whole name.
Yeah, Wasserman. Wasserman's the parent. We work under the Wasserman division of Wasserman. Yeah.
So does Blue Media still exist? in
Blue
that
Media,
way, or is it called Wasserman Live?
It's called Wasserman Live. Okay. Yeah, Blue Media doesn't exist anymore. We are now under the Wasserman Live banner. So just to kind of give, what was Blue Media, what is Wasserman Live now? Blue Media was a large format digital printing company, also specializing in custom fabrication as well as immersive experiences, all aimed at large sport and entertainment and live entertainment. So we worked a lot with our first big sports client was the Arizona Coyotes when they were down at the America West Arena as a subtenant of the Suns. They had the dasher boards, those little decals that go around the rink, and then like 4 backlets in the upper concourse. And we did that. We did that forever. And then we worked with the Diamondbacks and kept eventually evolving this events business. And
how many of the last Super Bowls have you personally been a big part of?
We've been a part of the last 11. So,
all right. So if you've watched any of the last 11 Super Bowls and saw anything printed on anything, including buildings, vehicles, etc., RJ and Blue Media did it.
Correct. Yeah. So we met them in 2008. The Super Bowl was at the then jobbing.com arena. I believe that's what it was at the time. And next door was the Coyotes arena. And so we had done everything in that building when they had moved over there. We were the large format digital printer of record and did everything in that building. They were holding a concert series at the time called Pepsi Smash. And the NFL was walking around with the general manager of that building, this guy, Jim Foss, who I'm forever grateful for. And this guy, Gray Goldfarb, who works at the NFL, was like, hey, everything in here looks really good. All your prints, all the murals, everything looks really good. Who does all your work? And he's like, you got to call RJ at Blue Media. And he gave him this guy Gray, my number. And so he called me and he's like, and this was probably 9 months before the Super Bowl. And he called me. He's like, hey, my name's Gray with the NFL. And he reminded me of this not this long ago. I had forgotten I did this. But he goes, we're doing this Pepsi Smash concert series at the arena. We'd like to maybe use you to help us out. I'm like, sure, no problem. So this is 2008. It's weird that we're not as evolved as we think we are in 2008. We didn't have a lot of stuff on computer. I mean, all my measurements, everything that I had were like written on graph paper in a binder that I had. And I Xeroxed the whole binder. It was like a couple inches thick. And I Xeroxed it, created a binder, and I sent it to him at the NFL. And with a note that says, hey, Gray, nice talking with you. Here are all the measurements to everything in there. I would love for you to use this. If you don't, at least this might help you. I forgot that I did that, but I did that. And he apparently really liked that. So he hired us to do this.
Yeah, you're offering value.
Right. So he gave us the gig. We did that gig, did a couple other things during that Super Bowl. And he and I hit it off and really was kind of off to the races from there. And that's how we eventually ended up winning the RFP to be the main decor vendor for the Super Bowl.
That's so sick. And then you guys have done a bunch of stuff with golf tournaments as well.
Yeah.
So it's not like you entirely left golf either.
Yeah, we didn't leave golf entirely. I mean, it's crazy now, the things that we're involved with. But yeah, we kind of still dabbled in professional golf and, worked on the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am and the Byron Nelson Classic and the Arnold Palmer Classic and a bunch of other things. And now that we're under the Wasserman Live banner, they're really big in Europe. They're huge in golf in Europe, and they do a lot of stuff, here in the States on that side as well, too. So it kind of comes full circle. It's ironic.
When did you and Lyda get married?
We got married in 2002. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. 2002.
That's great.
May 24th.
And then when was your first child born?
First child was born actually before that. And he was born in so Kyler he'll be 23 coming up here. We had him before we got married. We were actually engaged when we got pregnant. So we decided to just have Kyler. He was at our wedding, which was awesome. But yeah, so he'll be 23 here coming up. He was born in 2002. So we got married in 2003.
And you have 3 kids.
We have 3 kids. Yeah. Parker is my middle son, and then Kennedy is my youngest daughter.
Great names.
Yeah. Thanks. It's all Lyda. Yeah.
Same with my kids.
Yeah.
I can't take any credit. Did she have lists of names?
We kind of worked on them a little bit together. I mean, Kyler actually is ironic how that all came together because she really liked Tyler. I really liked Kyle. So we compromised, one of our first big compromises, and got Kyler. Parker was actually my sister's middle name, and we loved that. And then Kennedy, she found that name. And I'm like, that's it. I love that name. That's
great. What was it like as Blue Media is growing? You guys are scrappy. You're married. You got young kids. You're an AA. You're a sober 12-step guy. Like, what was juggling all of that like? You know, a lot of people that watch this podcast are in recovery.
Yeah.
And some of them are probably newer, and they're starting to put together their life.
Right.
Or even people that aren't in recovery that are putting together their lives in their 20s, 30s, whenever. How did you juggle all that stuff? Because it sounds overwhelming.
It does definitely sounds overwhelming. I mean, you can definitely relate to this with Nicole. It is because of my wife. I mean, it 100% is. I mean, and we talk about this a lot, and it's, the idea of the stay-at-home mom and how undervalued the stay-at-home mom is, especially it even seems like more and more it gets undervalued. I would not have been able to help build this business and be where I am without her support and without her being, I mean, if you think about it almost like a business, your home life is a business. Mm-hmm. I'm a partner and she's a partner. We're 50-50 partners. I may do the sexier things and I may do the things that get me on podcasts and show up in the newspaper, but the foundation of it all is my wife.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I show back up at the house after back-to-back meetings all day, doing a podcast, whatever. I get home. The kids have been homeschooled. They have eaten nutritious, home-cooked meals. We're getting ready to cook dinner. Everything is in its place. You called it foundational. I couldn't agree more. That's not a small task.
No.
I think it's reprehensible that has ever in our culture been looked down on at all. Nothing negative to say about career women. That's great. You want to go out and that's what you want to do. But vice versa, they're not mutually exclusive.
No, they're not.
In our society. Like, if you want to go out and be a career woman and put family life on hold, that's totally your choice. But if you want to build a home life and a family and raise children and do this with your husband, I think that's amazing.
It absolutely is. And think about this. I mean, she was 23 years old when we had Kyler. So, I mean, I'm learning a business as a new business owner, and she's learning how to organize a family and a household and deal with her husband that's not there all the time,
Right.
Then you got to think about my travel schedule only increased as these kids even became harder. So now they're your kids' ages, and then think about me not being there 3-4 months of the year, right? I mean, when you add it all up, it's like that. Like, that's how the travel schedule became. I mean, when we're doing Super Bowl, I'm gone for a month. There's people that travel and do their things for their work, but imagine being gone for 30 days straight and being a young mom with 3 kids at home and your husband's not there for 30 days. So, like, that's a lot to ask of somebody.
Yeah.
And, it's a testament to how strong she is and how amazing she is. And that's how that stuff gets done. That's why it's like when we go through all this stuff and there's the reward of, getting acquired and selling a business and all of this stuff, like, she's 50% of that, right? And I do my best to remind her of that. I probably don't do a great job doing it, but like this, we did this together. I didn't just do this. We did it together.
As Blue Media was growing, were there any tough moments where you considered walking away?
I wouldn't say for me walking away, but there was certainly some times where we had the belly of the plane was on the ground without a doubt.
Sure.
It was scraping along the bottom of the ground. And the perfect example, and this is just more still a testament to the network and family and all of the things. So it's 2008. The world's imploding, but we're in a bubble because the Super Bowl's here, right? And I remember it was probably late 2007. We're down in Palm Beach, Florida at an industry show. Me and my partner, Jared, my partner, Lance, and my partner, Darren. And we're there with a lot of other people in our industry. And I keep hearing all these rumblings of like, oh my God, like shit's going off the rails. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And so we get back, we had the best first part of the year ever, because here's the Super Bowl and we got a lot of stuff going on. And then you go into that summer after that year. So it's like summer 2008 and oh my God. And we were the banking relationship that we had at the time, I think we had probably like $1 million line of credit with them. We had $1 million in CapEx stuff, that printers and other things, and they were heavy in real estate. We were actually one of their non-real estate clients, smaller bank around here. And just like with many people in that at that time, we had fell out of covenants. We had 3 covenants that we had to stay within. We had fallen out of one of them by not a lot, but just a little bit. Missed the number, went and talked to them. They called the loan, called it. I'm like, oh my God. And try go getting a banking relationship in mid 2008. It's almost impossible.
Pretty much impossible. Yeah.
And
banks were collapsing.
And I'm like, oh my God. So we had literally gone to everybody and no one would take us. And I was telling my mom about it. And she was going to this exercise class with this lady that was a friend of her. And she worked at First Fidelity, which is a smaller bank here. I think the headquarters are in Oklahoma. And she was a VP there. And she was telling her about this, about our trial, about our issue. And she's like, okay, got a hold of the president of that bank. And he called us and came and he's like, we're going to take it. Like, we were literally probably 2 weeks away from closing the doors, and they saved us. They saved us. Absolutely saved us. It was amazing. And that was just this relationship that my mom had. She talked to somebody in an exercise class. The president came down and they saved us. I mean, it was literally like that. We wouldn't be who we are without them.
God is so good. It's like that book, Never Eat Alone. You've read that?
I have not, no.
It's just about networking and relationships.
Yeah.
How vital and critical it is.
Something AI can't do, right? Like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the deal. At the end of the day, a lot of people ask me, like, what is the key to success in business? What do I do as a new business owner? How's the thing? So there's only so many things that you can really control. There's a lot of stuff that you don't know. You're usually undercapitalized. You don't have a big stream of customers, all of the things. But what can you control? Number one, you can control your relationships and you can control customer service. You can literally be, as a new business owner, you can be the best in class at customer service day one. You literally can, because all it takes is you listening to clients, listening to what their problems are and help solving them, and just really being just a person. From my perspective, my approach towards outreach, new client, I'm trying not to be like this robot. I really just want to be just a friend more than anything else, because that's what they are looking for. Because most of the times, people don't jump ship or go to a new vendor or anything else if everything's great. They just don't. They switch when there's pain.
Yeah.
They absolutely do. So you being there when in a time of pain and really like, hey, listen, I hear you. I got you. I got you. I'm going to give you the ability to sleep at night. I'm going to take this homework assignment off your plate and I'm going to do it for you. And those relationships, the network, all of that stuff and then from there, think about it. To get the third-party verification, the third-party referral, we all do it, right? We all are one keystroke away from Google or AI or whatever we want to find whatever business. But what do a lot of us do? We ask our friends. And then when you get that, you're like, yep, like you referred me to Carmine. Hey, who should I use? You got to call Carmine. He's the best. Didn't go any further, called him. I'm like, Estil, he's the man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that was a third-party verification, and those are what you're hoping for all the time.
People like to do business with people.
Yep.
People don't want to do business with monolithic, faceless corporations.
They don't, and we're forever getting like. I had to get a new pair of glasses, and I just called to find out if they were there yet. You know, I think they had texted me. Maybe I missed it. Whatever, and I got this endless loop of computer generated stuff. I didn't get to the guy, so I had to go in there, and he's like, "Oh yeah, they're right here." Having that touch, that's what I'm talking about. So like, my big message to anybody that's new starting out is be the best at customer service.
Yep. And it doesn't cost you any money.
It doesn't cost you any money.
That's incredibly great advice. All right. So you didn't stop at Blue Media. You've got 2 other ventures. You've got Leak Secure and True Tankless. What inspired those?
Yeah, so those were inspired by my brother-in-law. He had come to me, in the early beginnings of that company, just really for some more kind of like marketing direction, because obviously I'm around a lot of big brands and other things like that. So he really wanted my kind of eyes on a few things, and really started kind of helping out more on an advisory role there. Ended up, getting on the board of directors for both those companies, and just was really, kind of a good timing at that point in my life where, I was able to give back to another starting company, which I love doing. I love just, I love getting on the phone and giving advice to other people, and with not expecting anything in return.
Sure.
That really lights me up, because my wife's always asking, what lights you up? I'm like, being a part of new stuff, like new businesses. I love that stuff. I mean, I really honestly do. So
I do too.
That's how that really came about was, really getting, asked if I could kind of look at something and really kind of give some direction. And then it just kind of evolved from there.
It's pretty rad. Anxious and curious and hopeful to see what both True Tankless and Leak Secure go out and do. Let's talk about mindset. How do you approach stress? Now you're juggling 3 different ventures. You're a serial entrepreneur. Your kids are older now.
Yep.
Still married, got a great marriage. Still doing some traveling.
Yep.
You and Lyda travel together too.
Correct.
It's great. So how do you manage stress now that you've been 28 years sober? You're like me, you're getting gray, you're getting a little older, more mature, wiser. How do you handle stress now against the backdrop of family and recovery?
Versus how I used to back then?
29.
I'll tell you what, man. I mean, God forbid, thank God that none of this was ever a reality show, because I would have hated to look back at. Honestly, like in the day, I used to deal with stress. Like, remember the show Orange County Choppers? And they used to go, that's how we would do it. Like, because my brother works with me, and thank God for my brother. Like, he is another big piece of the reason why we're all here. But the dark side of that coin, the shadow part of that, is he took a lot of the brunt of the stress. So did my wife, no doubt about it. But especially when we were on job sites, if I wanted to really unleash and just get that out, there would be yelling matches. And I remember us getting to the point, where the company's starting to grow, and then you got a lot more people coming on, and then essentially you get to this point where you're like, you don't know everybody that works there, and then we're in the back, and you've got these 2 guys yelling at each other. They have no idea what's going on. They don't know that we're brothers. They don't know what's going on. And unfortunately, that was my coping mechanism for dealing with stress then. Now through the evolution of, being in the program, learning how to, increase my meditation on a daily basis, really kind of tap into that. My wife, Lyda, is amazingly in touch with that whole side. And I've learned a lot from her, really kind of learning to go into situations of like, you've been here before, you know what I'm saying? And I remember, there's been many a times where I've been at Super Bowl or been on a big event and things are going sideways, and calling her and having her talk me off the ledge, and and have her bring up, been like, remember last year when you called me? And you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, oh yeah, and remembering that. So for me, dealing with stress, and when I'm really in the zone of doing it well, I'm actually opening up and letting other people in to what those stresses are, almost kind of the same way of the program and getting sober, like letting
5 steps or 10 steps.
Correct. Letting somebody else help me, letting the higher power speak through them to me. And that's, and a lot of us we think we can, and even in sobriety, right? I mean, it's crazy. You're like, hold it. You realize that got you where you were from there. Like you were at the bottom. Why can't it work for this? And I often forget to empower it in other ways. So I'm trying to empower that in my everyday life as it relates to stress and all of the things that go on.
Do you think or feel that being in recovery gives you a unique edge in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I do, in the respect that there's a lot of things that I've learned as a result of being in recovery, being sober, that I've been able to apply to my business life. I do think that, it is not definitely a precursor to being successful as an entrepreneur by any stretch of the imagination at all. To be honest with you, Estil, there probably might have been a deal or 2 or 3 over the years that I lost because I didn't go from the meeting to happy hour. I didn't go from, you know what I'm saying? Like, there are those types of business relationships that I'm not as obtuse to not understand, probably get done over some cocktails. And I just never went to those, you know? But at the same point, feel like I've gained so much more as a result. So it's not a regret of mine by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm also been around long enough to understand, even if I had done that, I probably would have blown that freaking deal up anyways as a result of being loaded, right? So, I mean, coming at entrepreneurship from a recovery perspective is much more of a smoother life and one that's at least way more fulfilling than anything else, because we've seen it. I've known people like this. History's littered with success, like ridiculously successful people that probably want to kill themselves on a daily basis.
Sure.
Like literally are miserable. It's ironic. Like
it trips me out. I mean, who were we talking about earlier? Stephen Bartlett.
Yeah.
I listened to a lot of his podcasts, and I listened to him interview Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
And that guy is genuinely not a happy person.
Right.
And he's got so much success, and he's so young. And then I've listened to other entrepreneurs who are really happy, who was
the billionaire that he had on the
with the mustache?
Guy? Yeah.
That guy was so happy.
He was awesome. And he even said it. He goes, I've met a lot of billionaires, and you seem really happy. You know what I mean?
That was such a great interview.
It was a great interview.
That's one of my favorite ones he's done.
Absolutely.
I can't remember that guy's name. I just remember he had a handlebar mustache.
It was great.
He's Pakistani or something.
Yep.
He's from the Middle East. Yeah.
But I mean,
it's awesome.
And even his whole thing, like, I mean, I just love his approach to it, because I related to a lot of it, because when he started, he's like, I'm going to make 200 phone calls a day.
Yep.
And then I'm going to send him a mailer, and then I'm going to call him again. And that, back to that yellow pad,
yep.
That was me. I mean, I would make hundreds of phone calls a day. I would. And it's the best job, literally the best job that I've ever had, that's prepared me for being an entrepreneur. I was 16 years old, and I really wanted to go on this spring break. I don't even know where we were going. We were going to Cancun. But we had chaperoned and stuff, but I needed to raise money for it. And my parents were like, get a job. And I got a telemarketing job. I was a telemarketer. And we worked for radio stations, and we tried to get people on the phone to then go to the next level, which they would listen to like 30-second clips of songs and rate it so that they knew what to play on the radio. That's how they used to do it back in the day. But when I first got there, I was the guy, like the initial call, like trying to bang people at like 7 o'clock at night when they're having dinner, like, hey, would you want to listen to some music? You know, but with that job, I make thousands of phone calls a week.
And so much rejection.
I mean, it's like out of 100 calls, you probably got 5 people that say, sure, I'll do that, you know, but it trained me to be on the phone. So relating back to that of like just banging the phone and getting in front of people and filling the sales funnel and doing all the things, it was great training.
You know, Robert Kiyosaki talks about that too. He learned sales and rejection at Xerox, and I've heard other entrepreneurs say the same thing, that, you know, learning, if you want to go into business, one of the best things you can do as an education is to go get a commission-only sales job,
right?
And just get your teeth kicked in for a year.
Absolutely, it's beyond the best.
It makes you resilient.
Yeah, because you're either eating top ramen or you get to go to, you know, Panera one night. You know, I mean, it's just like, and I love that. And I've talked to that with new guys that have come in as sales guys, et cetera. And they're like, what's up? I'm like, the greatest thing is there's zero ceiling on how much you can make. There's no ceiling, but you may eat top ramen for the next year. Yeah. Literally you may, but I love it. Like that even lights me up. Like doing that, I love being we're back against the wall and you're just like, I got to do this.
I'm sure you get this question. There are young people that are young in their careers. They're wanting to break free of the 9-to-5. They want to be their own boss. They want to start the entrepreneurial journey, but they don't know where to start. They don't know what kind of business to get into. What advice would you offer to them?
This is a two-parter for me, because initially I would say this answer. Initially, I would say go into something you absolutely love and you're passionate about. That's what I would say. Now that I'm 50,
put a pin in that. Why would you say that?
Yeah, I mean, because you're going to continue to get yourself out of bed to go do that because you love that. Now that I'm 51, my answer's changed because I've seen people that have done that. and they're like, I love building antique boats. Absolutely love it, building antique boats. This is actually a true story because this was somebody that I knew. And he went into building antique boats. He absolutely did. And loved it, loved everything about it.
But they were gorgeous.
Made zero money.
Yeah.
He's like, this is amazingly difficult to do. Made no money. He then transitioned into custom windows and was killing it, right? So my answer now is this, is yes, you definitely still want to do something that at least you've got some sort of passion for. At least you kind of like what it is. But really kind of look at something where the vertical in which you're going to go into has the ability to make money from a cash flow perspective, right? Because there's so many businesses out there that you can start that are amazingly capital intensive that you're just going to be it's going to be brain damaged for so long that you want to be able to get into something that people want, that people need, but then you can quickly kind of get to a cash flow perspective and understand that's probably not going to be your first business. It's not going to be your forever business.
Right.
Just get in the game and then go from there. You know, I'm probably a part of more, opposite of the rule in entrepreneurship, because I was in a business since I was 23 years old that just recently had an exit event, right? So, I mean, we worked there for 25, 26, 27 years, and then finally had an exit event. Where typically a lot of entrepreneurs will have done a business and then they might have sold it or got it acquired or did something else within 3, 4, 5 years. You know what I'm saying? So really just kind of get in the game and understand that it's something that you can do that, yeah, I actually kind of do like this. I like being around this business, but something that can get to more of a cash flow positive position quicker than something like building antique boats.
Gosh, it sounds like my career. What advice would you give to someone who's newly sober and really tripping about the future? You know, their future tripping about their career and their life, and let's say they're in their first 60, 90 days, first year. Would you say to somebody newly sober and they're thinking about all of the things that they want to go out and achieve and provide?
I mean, honestly, that this life is long, and it really is. And it has so many different chapters to it. And they're really segmented in short little sprints that it isn't really about this 20, 30, 40-year outlook that you can change your life in the next year. Like it literally can go that way. So here's another cliche from the program. And the reason why it keeps sticking around is because it's absolutely dead true. 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time, one call at a time, one interface with a client at a time. And just those little pieces, building that foundation. So everything that I try to do from a business perspective is kind of building this pyramid. And it takes a long time to build that first foundation, right? You got to level the ground. Everything's got to sit right because you're building everything on top of it that has to stay really strong. And so that the top of the pyramid is as strong as that bottom block. And that's where all of that is done. And it's just literally going, okay, take a deep breath, understand that this is going to probably, when you turn around, go way faster than you thought it was going to, but literally just wake up, do that task. Next day, wake up, do that task again. And just, it's all going to take care of itself. We have this amazing ability to really get in our own way, especially those of us in recovery. I mean, we have a master's degree in getting in our own way and being our own worst enemy. And that's a lot of how that manifests itself, right? The disease, the struggles of alcohol and drug addiction and all that stuff, they manifest itself in all these different ways, which is the amazing thing about the program is okay, when it's manifested itself in this different way, you still have the tools in your toolbox to go deal with that. That's what people don't really understand. They really almost think that recovery is just not about drinking or doing drugs, and that's it. And that's literally just almost 1% of it.
It's really a roadmap for the human experience.
Yeah. Absolutely.
RJ, I can't thank you enough for being out here today.
It was great, man. Anytime. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.